Hi everyone, I'm going to paint some roses. I'm using £140 paper in a gummed block. To start off, I'm just squirting the paper with some water. This is a fine mist spray. I started off by mixing a very watery mix of light pink, this is rose d'or, and I'm just placing it where I want the roses to be, and then I ended up just tipping it onto the wet paper and just let it spread out how I want it. Letting the paint just spread on its own, I then came in and added a bit of a green colour to the background where I want the leaves to go. Here I'm just blotting out with the tissue some of the lighter areas that I want to keep light. Now I'm coming in with a darker red to just start hinting where the petals are, like the shades that are created by the petals. Paper is very wet still, and I'm just letting it all blend in. You can see the rose shape starting to form. I'm using the very tip of the brush. If you've got a really good brush with a round brush with a nice tip on it, you can just use it for really thin strokes and thick strokes at the same time. Here I've come in with an orangey pink just to add a bit more definition to the roses. I'm blotting out areas where the water starts to pool a bit too much, and also where I want to keep the light of the paper shining through. Now I've mixed up a darker green, and I'm just coming in to sort of outline where I want the darker leaves to be and the sort of some dark areas of the background. There I was just encouraging it to flow where I want it to flow, and I'm spraying in some water in a direction that I want the paint to follow in. Where the paper's wet, the paint will go to. Now I'm coming in again and adding some darker colour and just letting it all flow out into the water. I always do quite a lot of blotting out because I do paint very wet, and I like to lift the colour off, and it gives a really subtle effect. Here I'm coming in with a sword brush and a darker colour just to add some fine details. You can get a really fine point, and it's a bit like a calligraphy pen really, and you can get thick and thin lines with it, and you don't have 100% control over it, so it gives you some interesting lines and effects. It's great for just picking out the little details, and then all of a sudden your painting starts to come to life. The paper's still very wet, and I'm just adding in some details to the background. Now I'm using the sword brush to add some leaves in. I'm trying to keep everything very free and loose, and just let the paint do what it wants to do, and I'm encouraging it to run where I want it to go to. Now I'm just adding some extra details to the roses. As the paint starts to dry on the paper, you can start adding more details. Now I'm just adding some more details with the darker pink, just to bring out a few more of the roses. Now I'm going to add some plastic wrap just to the darker area at the bottom of the roses, and then leave it to dry, and this is going to create a nice texture of maybe the leaves in the background. Now I decided to come in with a little bit of Naples yellow, just to add a bit of, don't know what to call it really. The roses had sort of a creamy pink colour to them, and I was trying to capture that, I suppose. I'm just adding in a few darker areas to the background. Here I'm just using a water-soluble watercolour pencil just to sort of drag the paint and also draw a little bit with the pencil. I do like to blot a lot. Here I'm just sanding the water-soluble pencil over some areas of the painting just to add a bit of texture. And some final darks before I leave it to dry. Now I couldn't resist sprinkling a tiny little bit of salt on there. Okay, the painting's completely dry and I've just taken off the plastic wrap, and you can see there's a really nice texture there. There was a few areas underneath it that hadn't dried properly, so I'm just using a heat gun just to finish off drying off the picture completely. And now I'm just adding some details of the stem and some leaves. Here I'm just using a really dark green for the background to bring out the shapes of the roses. And just to soften it off, I'm spraying it with water. Now I'm just coming in with a really dark red pinky colour to just sort of add the contrast of the darks in the petals of the roses. Here I'm just painting in some shadows so they have a bit more depth to them. Now I'm just adding more darks to the stem and the petals, the leaves of the roses. After I've checked that I think everything is right, I'm just using a heat gun to dry it off. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. I just want to take this time to remind you that I have a Patreon account, which is in the links under this video, if you'd like some insider info and extra videos, and also free goodies to print out and also sent to you. Bye!